Welcome everyone to the next installment of our professional spotlight of the Long Island Collaborative Divorce Professionals. I'm joined today by my friend and colleague, Donna LaScala. Donna is a financial neutral in the collaborative divorce process, and she is also a certified divorce financial analyst. Donna, thank you so much for joining me today.
Jackie, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
So Donna, in this professional spotlight, we always like to take a look at the members of our group and take a deep dive into what brought them into this practice of collaborative divorce. So if you could tell us a little bit about that, we would love to hear more.
Sure. So I'm also a registered financial consultant. And in that role, I started working with attorneys 30 years ago. I've been doing divorce work for about 20 years. In that work, I felt that there were so many people going through the divorce process that really needed to have their hand held to talk about their finances. A lot of women that weren't the person that handled the family finances, they weren't knowledgeable about what they had, no less what they were about to receive in a settlement. So I started working with women going through divorce about 20 years ago. Actually, my first ever divorce client is now a dear, dear friend of mine, still a client. And then as it would happen, I went through my own divorce and I went through a contested litigated divorce. Now, as a professional, when I was dealing with somebody else's divorce, you know, I had a once removed sort of relationship to the process and would hear from their perspective what they were going through. But it was quite eye-opening when I actually went through it myself to realize how broken the system is. And it's not what most people think. It's not that there are attorneys out there just churning because they want to make money. You get stuck in this system. It's like being on a hamster wheel and you just keep going around and around and around and nothing actually happens. And we all know the statistics, especially in Nassau County, for example, where there are only 6 matrimonial judges. How can they possibly handle all the cases that come before them to their docket?
It's true.
I've been divorced for 8 years now. I just actually, for the first time, saw my judge on a Zoom call in a meeting. I was like, oh, that's what he looked like. Because I've never gotten into the courtroom, because people think that, you know, it's, you know, the drama that they see on TV and you're going to get into court and it's going to be, you know, Kramer versus Kramer and you're going to have your say. And it's nothing like that at all. So when 90 to 95% of all litigated divorces actually settle out of court because you're forced to make the decisions yourself, of course, with the assistance and guidance of your attorney, why would you put yourself into a system that cannot really handle the volume that's being put into it? And you have to settle it anyway. So that was one of the reasons why I kind of took a step back and said, you know what, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. This is craziness. And if I can help one person not to have to go through what I went through, then my job is done. So I actually spoke to my attorney and she said to me, you know, you have such a knack for this because of the financial aspects that you know. She goes, you should look into get some kinds of certifications. And as it would happen, the first thing I did was become trained as a mediator. And then from there, I learned about the collaborative process. And then I kind of felt like, oh, okay, this is what makes sense. This is what needs to be happening. And, you know, and then I met you and everyone else at LICDP. And it's, you know, it's absolutely where we need to be in this process and to help families and to help individuals, because it's a mess. It's just a mess out there.
Right, right. And I mean, that's so interesting that you know from your own experience of a litigated divorce that has taught you it's not really the best way to do it. And not learning through your career these other possibilities. It's really interesting. It's really interesting. And I think, you know, from having worked with you and know you as a friend, I mean, that's what makes you so good at what you do, is that you have been there and you understand and you have the knowledge to help someone through. So it's a really special combination.
You know, you're right, Jackie. It's when you're sitting with someone and, especially women, and it's the scariest time of their lives, they have no idea what they're being asked to decide because they don't know, they can't picture what's in front of them. So
Mhm.
when I sit with them and I say, look, I've been in your shoes, I understand the fear, I
Right.
understand anxiety, I know what you're thinking. And they'll kind of look at me like, how could you possibly? And I say, okay, so let's try this one on for size. You are afraid that you're making a decision today about what assets to ask for, to receive, and you have no idea how you're going to pay the electric bill. And they go like this, because I know exactly what they're thinking, because I was
Right.
there. I
Right.
was in their shoes. So having that understanding, and also, as you said, the experience and the knowledge, not only as a financial advisor, but as a certified divorce financial analyst, I have been trained and have the experience to help them look at all sides. And I say to them, okay, let's come up with a scenario. What's your best case scenario? What do you see? What's your ultimate goal? How does this make you feel? Is this going
Mhm.
to allow you to sleep at night? All right, now let's tweak it. What if this? What if that? And you can move things in and out of that picture. And once they sort of have it in front of them, they can go, oh, okay, I
Right.
can live with that. I think that's doable. And you
Mhm.
can see that, their faces just relax and their
Right.
shoulders go down. And,
Right.
they sigh, a sigh of relief, like, oh, okay, this isn't this big, scary thing out there. Like my sister always used to say to me, there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Mhm.
And I used to say to her, I can't even see the tunnel. Never mind the
Never
light
mind the
at the
light.
end of it. I can't even see the tunnel.
Right.
So, it's a very overwhelming thing that
Overwhelming.
we ask of people.
Yes, yes. And for the LICDP website, you've written a really beautiful piece about your personal experience and how you found this path to becoming a CDFA and a collaborative professional. And one of the themes I noticed from reading that is that it really seems that the emotion of all of this, of a divorce and the major life change, really clouds someone's ability to make rational, reasonable decisions, right?
Absolutely. And, when you're dealing with money, it's a very interesting dynamic that we have with money. Most of our approach to how we deal with money is formed when we're very young, and we get those ideas from our parents, from our
Mhm.
family unit. So we learn about money, and whether we grew up in a deprivation situation or an abundance situation or everything in between has a lot to do with how we as adults approach the idea of money. So it's very emotionally charged to begin with. I ask my clients on every level, what does money mean to you? And they kind of look at me like, what are you asking me? And
Mm.
women and men have very different approaches to money. Most women will say things like safety, security, independence. Most
Mm.
men will say things like power, control, and, words like that. It's a very different dynamic. So
Mm.
when you're dealing with someone in divorce and they have this attachment, emotional attachment to money, and they start thinking about things in this way, I cannot give up this thing because then I won't have my freedom, my independence, my security, my safety, whatever it is. So I tell the story about Aunt Millie's teapot. Now, when I was going through my divorce, we had to go into the special referees chambers. And you know who that is, you know what that means. So
Right.
for anyone who doesn't know what that means, someone who is affiliated with the judge that you've been assigned to, and they are an attorney, and they sit up in the front of the room, and everybody that's going through a divorce, gets put in this room. He starts talking to us about Aunt Millie's teapot. I'm like, what is he talking about? So, Aunt Millie's teapot, the teapot that Aunt Millie gave you on your first anniversary, and it's the most hideous thing you've ever seen. And it's chartreuse and orange and it's awful. and you put it on the shelf, in the closet, in the back, and you never use the thing unless Aunt Millie comes over and you take it out off the shelf, you dust it off, you put it on the table and you serve tea. And then as soon as she leaves, it goes back in the closet.
Right.
Well, now, 20 years later, you're getting divorced and everyone wants Aunt Millie's teapot. Why? It's not worth anything, but you're
Right.
suddenly fighting over this thing that you both hated because you don't want the other one to have it.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to give it up. We imbue things with these emotions. And when you really think about it, money is simply a barter system. It allows me to get something that you have. It allows me to have a roof over my head and food and clothing and all of those things. But money is not love. Money is not security. Money is not safety. And especially during these times of COVID, it's been very interesting to talk to people about the difference between want and need.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Key about how you approach these kinds of negotiations with people.
Right. Oh, it's so interesting. Well, Donna, I really encourage anyone out there who may be listening to this to reach out to us. You could reach both Donna and I through our website at www.licdp.com. We would be very happy to speak with anyone, answer any questions they may have, and hopefully encourage you to learn more and perhaps choose the collaborative process. And Donna, thank you so much. It's been great to have you here today to provide your unique perspective.
Thank you, Jackie. It's always a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you.